Welcome to the Health Hobby Podcast, the place for busy moms searching for simple solutions to weight loss, more energy, better nutrition, fitness, and healthy living time management. I'm your host, Amanda Ford. Stick with me and make health your hobby as I guide you through simple steps and skill-building exercises so you can finally hit those dreamy health and weight loss goals. Take it from me, it's time to kick all those fad diets and quick fix workouts to the curb. It's all about slowing down and finding your very own rhythm of healthy living, because when you find your health, you find your joy. Let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome back to the Health Hobby Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Ford, and welcome to episode number 20. So it's officially episode number 20, but this is episode number 4 in my Nutrition for Weight Loss series. So if you haven't listened to the last 3 episodes, you want to listen to them in order because each concept builds on the next, and it will give you a robust toolbox to tighten up your nutrition and help you finally lose the weight that you've been dreaming of and keep it off. It not only will help you lose weight, but also build healthy eating routines and will give you lifelong skills in the kitchen and making food choices forever more. So I'm super excited to be on episode 4 of that series. This is a sneak peek into a course that I'm building. So I am curious if anyone has feedback they can share so far, questions that they have. If you have questions, if you've been listening, please pop over to the YouTube channel. If you're not listening on YouTube, of course, please hit follow and subscribe over there. But if you have questions, pop them into the comments section of YouTube so I can see them in real time and answer them for you. And then also kind of see where you are and maybe some areas that I'm missing that I could build out in more detail as I build the course and even as I come up with additional content for the podcast. So I thank you for your time in doing that. And I also thank you for being here, returning. If you're new, welcome. There are 19 episodes before this one you can binge on while you're doing the dishes or walking the dog or driving to work. But let's dive into episode 20. And today we're going to be talking about the power of calorie tracking for weight loss. Again, this is episode 4 in my Nutrition for Weight Loss series. And we are at the point now that you know what to eat, you have a calorie budget, you understand basic nutrition, and now we're at the point of implementing and tracking. And tracking is so critical to any weight loss journey that I'm just so excited to do this episode, because this is really where I think I say this all the time, where the magic happens, but it is because this is where you're going to get the information to see where you can make shifts and where you're really shining, areas that have opportunity, areas where you may need to reach out for extra support or maybe do more learning. And that's how you get better. And that's how you lose the weight, you guys. So the goal for today is to break down why tracking calories works, how to do it without feeling stressed, because I know this is a stressful topic for a lot of people, and how to use the data, your personal data, to refine your weight loss process, all while being realistic in these steps, as a busy mom, because this is where I'm going to talk about this in a sec, but this is where I lose a lot of people is I said this in the last episode. I'm like, okay, it's time for a calorie budget. And that's the first step where I lose a lot of people. They just don't want to do it. But this step of actually doing the implementation of using your calorie budget and, tracking how you're feeling and all the work that is associated with this process, people just don't want to do it. So this is a pretty meaty episode, and just take one piece that really sits with you if it's too much for you today and work on that. Make sure to save this episode and come back to it frequently, because this is one of those episodes that is really going to change your current process, because your current process or a lack of current process is not working. And this is how you can refine and polish and really find success in your weight loss, unlike anything you've done in the past. So in a previous episode, we talked about a calorie budget. So why is it important to lock in a calorie budget for your weight loss? Well, I covered that extensively in several episodes, even episodes outside of this little mini series that I'm doing, Nutrition for Weight Loss series that I'm doing. So think of a calorie budget like your financial budget, okay? It's exactly the same idea. So you can't spend more than you have and expect to save money, right? So it's the same idea for weight loss, right? You can't eat more calories than your body needs and expect to lose weight, right? Like if you are spending more money and you're trying to save to go to Disneyland or buy a new car or send your kids to college, those are all things that I'm doing right now. You know, and you're buying like $300 jeans every month, that's not going to work. You're never going to hit your savings goals. So when we think about it, we think about a calorie budget like a financial budget, we can't eat more calories than our budget allows because that will push us over the edge. We'll be in the red. And that means we have a surplus of calories, and unlike money, we wouldn't have a surplus of money if we overspent. We would have negative. We have too much and our body holds onto it, and therefore you gain weight, or for our purposes, we will not lose weight, right? Or you could maintain your current weight, but ultimately we are not hitting our goal for this particular series, and usually what I'm talking about on this podcast, and that's weight loss. So remember, our metabolism is important here. Your body burns calories every day. I'm burning calories as I'm sitting here talking to you. You're burning calories as you're doing the dishes, listening to me, as you're driving to work, as you're sleeping. Literally every moment that you are breathing alive, even if you're just lying there on the bed, you are burning calories, right? So even at rest. So to lose weight, you need to eat slightly less calories than you burn each day. And that's why we do that extra step and we do that work to determine what your customized calorie budget should be, because it is customized to you. It is not the same as your sisters. It's not the same as your husbands. It's not the same as your teenage daughters or your neighbor or your coworker. It's very customized to you and how you live your day to day, how much you exercise, how much you don't exercise, what your job is like. It's really customized to you. So please, if you haven't already and you're listening to this episode and you're really wanting to get serious about your weight loss, you need to determine your personal calorie budget. It is in the episode before this one. So episode 18, that's Nutrition for Weight Loss series, knowing the nutritional math. And in that episode, I walk you through determining how to calculate your personal calorie budget. And in that episode, in the notes, there is a worksheet for you to download totally for free. It's a direct download. You can just grab it and it will help you get your personal calorie budget all dialed in. So once you've got that calorie budget, we can't know for sure if our eating routine is working unless we track. So tracking comes in a variety of forms. So the meat of the tracking is with your caloric tracking. So tracking your portion sizes and the amount of calories you've eaten per day for each meal and snack and so forth. But you can also track your body measurements, your weight, how your clothes are fitting, how you're resting, your bowel movements, your mood. All those things are critical to a weight loss journey when we're talking about tracking. You don't have to do all of them, but they can be huge pieces of information when you're really trying to drive successful weight loss and you want to just drive general wellness while you're on a weight loss journey. My final episode in the series is going to be about fitness. It's going to be really my meatiest fitness episode yet. I absolutely love strength training, and part of strength training is you have to track your progress, and it's the same idea. I can't know if I'm getting stronger or not if I'm not tracking how much weight I'm lifting per exercise. So it's really important to track some sort of metric. No matter what, period, end of story. It has to be your calories first, but there's other ways to, let's just say, sprinkle in additional tracking metrics to help you see where you're progressing and where opportunities lie to fine-tune your process. If you remember in the last couple episodes, if you listen to them, if you haven't, please go back and pop them in your ears and listen to them. But I shared, you should have an app on your phone to track your calories. So MyFitnessPal is super popular. I personally use that for almost a decade. I have recently moved over to Ponometer, and I absolutely love it way more than MyFitnessPal. I like the interface. I have no affiliation with them. I love it so much. But either of those work well. They're easy. They are accessible. They're free. And you can use a personal journal to track all the other elements I just mentioned, like how you're feeling, how you're sleeping, so you can just use like old school paper and pen, or in those calorie trackers, there are areas, I think on the daily logs, like there's just like a notes button that you can leave notes. So if you like to keep everything all in one little package, all organized, that's a really great place to track additional metrics that you're thinking of for your personal wellness and your weight loss process. Tracking is where I really lose women's attention. The first area where people kind of start to go, I don't know, is when I'm like, okay, let's lock in a calorie budget. But once I get them past that and they're like, okay, this sounds good. This is serious. This is numerical data that I can work with to, assess and make sure that I'm eating on track and I'm eating a balanced diet and doing everything so I feel good and also lose weight. When I'm like, okay, you've got your number, it's time to implement doing the work of tracking. It's like almost a hard stop because, quite frankly, they don't want to do it. And it's almost, I don't know why they don't want to do it. I think it's more like, I don't want to say it's laziness. It's just like, it's not that instant gratification that so much of us are just used to getting all the time. This is not an instant gratification type of process. In fact, it takes weeks, months, and sometimes years, depending on how much weight you need to lose and how, what areas of wellness too that you're trying to optimize and really polish. So here's the deal. You have to do it and you have to have a calorie budget. This is the philosophy that I use for my personal health, my personal weight loss. It's the philosophy that I used to guide multiple women through weight loss journeys. I used to host online weight loss challenges. It is what works. It is a have to, must to do. So you gotta get over, if that's you just really gotta get over that I'm not gonna do that. Well, you don't have to do it, but I guarantee, I don't like saying guarantee you, but I'm fairly sure that once you try it and you start to see progress and you start to see the amount of information that is offered to you, that by putting that attention in how you're feeling, it just really centers you and grounds you in the process. You're going to see the magic and why it's so important. So there's a variety of reasons. I'm going to be talking about those reasons today, why some people, don't want to do it or hesitant to do it. There's a bunch of myths that I'm going to be talking about and hopefully explain away all of your excuses that are keeping you from doing this critical step in your weight loss journey. So maybe that's not you. Maybe you're like, nope, I'm gung ho. Let's do this. Teach me right now. I'm going to talk about that too, but I don't want to skip this. It's something that it's a phenomenon that I have noticed. I've been studying this stuff and working through this personally for many, many years. And I've worked with multiple women and I know the challenges and the roadblocks that are brought into this process. So I am not going to skip over talking about some of those hesitations and quite frankly, what their excuses or, personal scheduling challenges and things like that are keeping you from this critical step. So my goal in this podcast is for you to be inspired. I don't want to feel like I'm barking at you, but I do get really passionate and spicy sometimes. So I apologize if I'm a little bit hot, but ultimately my goal is to inspire you to finally make the changes you are constantly thinking about. You're going to bed. You're like, okay, tomorrow I'm getting up and I'm working out. Tomorrow I'm going to make that protein shake and plan my meals for the day. Tomorrow I'm going to be tracking my calories. Tomorrow I'm going to log my food. Tomorrow I'm going to portion size. But it never happens, or you have struggled for years and years and years and it's not working. So listen, one simple step at a time, and tracking is one of those steps. So let's get started. Look, there are some seriously smart people out there who have published studies on why tracking calories or even just keeping a simple food diary is ultra effective if a woman is trying to be successful in weight loss and keeping it off over time, right? So we are tackling the acute goal of, I want to lose 10 pounds, I want to lose 25 pounds, I want to lose 30 pounds, 50 pounds, whatever it is. But then what do you got to do? It doesn't stop when you hit that goal. It's like, okay, I've built this skill, I've worked hard, I've implemented a new way of living, a new lifestyle, and I've reached this huge health goal. Now, what do I need to do? Well, I need to keep it off. Well, one of the ways that you need to keep it off and maintain is by tracking your calories. So I wanted to talk about some science-backed proof that tracking is essential because, again, like I just mentioned, so many women are like tracking averse. They're like, I don't want to do it. Well, one of the reasons they don't want to do it is because it takes a lot of time. But I'm going to talk about that's a myth. I'm going to talk about that later in the podcast. Let's talk about some of these studies really quick so I can really drive home the importance of implementing and maintaining a tracking routine in your weight loss journey. All right, let's start with a Harvard Medical School study that was from 2008. And I'll reference these studies down in the show notes. I'll link to them so you can have a read at the abstracts and even go deeper if you want to learn more and read all the study elements and implementations and additional factors that they utilize to come up with these with this data. But this study, I love this. So listen carefully, you guys. Out of 1,700 participants, those who kept a daily food record lost twice as much weight as those who kept no record. So right there, that is the money quote right there. Right there is reason enough for me to take a little bit of extra, put in a little bit of extra effort, change my daily routine just slightly, like minuscule changes to add in the routine of tracking so I can pretty much ensure that I lose at least some weight, right? So they lost twice as much weight. So you're going to be losing weight, but how about we double your outcome, right? Yes, please, let's do that. So that is so inspiring. And it is like literal proof, you guys, that tracking is critical. In another study, so this is in a 2017 study from West Virginia University. I want to call out that West Virginia, I don't know if it still is, but it has been for decades one of the most unhealthy states in our union. And there's a high rate of diabetes there, extreme obesity, like morbid obesity, and there's a lot of nutritional studies that are done at West Virginia University and at Marshall and other institutions in West Virginia because of this this high prevalence of obesity in the population of the state. So West Virginia University, they called this study the effect of adherence to dietary tracking on weight loss. So in that study, they found that dietary tracking, so tracking your calories, it was extremely effective for weight loss up front and over time. So remember I said we want to maintain, we want to do the acute goal and we want to maintain for over time. And I'm going to read the summary for you. Both these studies will be linked in the show notes if you want to dig into the science deeper, which I encourage you to do. This is the type of stuff that I read in my free time. I love it. It is so interesting. And, when I need motivation, I'm like, I need to see the science. I need to see the why. Like if someone's telling me to do something or guiding me to do something, show me proof. That's kind of how my personality is. And so I always like to make sure that, I'm not just saying this stuff for fun. One, I have lived it, so I know it works, but hey, here's some science. Here's some proof, real hard proof that, some PhDs, some grad students have spent years studying, and this is the answer, you guys. So listen to the conclusion of this West Virginia University study. So the study shared that dietary tracking was found to be an important component of successful weight loss, with those who tracked at least 5 days of the week showing significant and sustained weight loss over time as compared to those who tracked fewer days or were inconsistent during the program. Consistent tracking is a significant predictor of weight loss. I'm going to say that again. Consistent tracking is a significant predictor of weight loss, resulting in an additional, here we go, guys, 7 pounds of weight loss over the course of the program, suggesting the intervention successfully achieved clinical and significant long-term weight loss in high-risk Appalachian adults with diabetes and prediabetes. So even more interesting, they found that in addition, a model of weight change over time revealed that more weight was lost over the summer. This is just a random fact that I read in this study. I was like, this is wild. So more weight was lost in the summer as compared to the holiday season. So I'm going to pause for a second. I have an episode about staying healthy over the holidays. So I want you to go back and listen to that. But there's always this big thing like eating, there's always cookies and snacks and cakes and candy all over the place. Once Halloween comes and we're going all the way through New Year's, I mean, it's like, everyone's going ham on the cookies. But despite potential challenges to eating healthy during the holidays, this is from the study, you guys, those who consistently maintain their food journal and tracked their calories and fat intake did not experience an increase in weight over the holidays, indicating that consistent tracking may act as a protective factor to the challenges of following a healthy lifestyle during the holidays. So that was just a little bit of a cherry on top that I read in that study summary. I was like, oh yeah, this is great. I have to share this. So listen, I love when we have solid science, real data to lock in these concepts because it makes it real and it makes it clear that it's absolutely necessary. But look, you guys, I'm just a mom, okay? I have personally experienced how helpful and effective calorie tracking is for weight loss. I've used this strategy not only on myself, but with other women who found it helpful and who ultimately lost 10, 20 plus pounds over a 6 to 9 week period or longer as I worked with them. So it feels good to not just share anecdotal stories like that, like really basic, like, hey, I've done this, it works. But to have Harvard Medical School and West Virginia University has scientific data that actually proves its effectiveness is really important to me. And I hope that it drives home to you the importance of tracking and why I'm always preaching, like, you got to track, you got to track, you got to track. Well, here is the data that's telling you to do it also. The other reason I like track is that it creates awareness. So awareness of what you're eating, awareness of how you're living your day equals power. So most of us underestimate how much we eat. So tracking removes the guesswork too. So we become aware that, I think I told this peanut butter story in the What to Eat episode, which is the one before this one, episode number 19. So I like to eat peanut butter. I don't do it as much anymore. My pre-workout used to be a rice cake with peanut butter, and I used to or toast, and I would just full on, like, no edge of the rice cake or the toast was left untouched by peanut butter, and it was a nice thick portion of peanut butter. And I used organic, all natural peanut butter, organic 100% whole wheat bread, or your rice cakes, and that's a healthy snack. But listen, in inappropriate or overly sized portions, it can really throw off your calorie budget. So when I started tracking, I was like, I don't know how much. This is literally the first thing I ever tracked, you guys. I was like, I don't know how much peanut butter to eat. I have no idea. Well, I just looked on the side of the jar, and I believe the serving size used to do the calories on the peanut jar is 2 tablespoons. I was like, okay, well, I'll do that. 2 tablespoons is like a fraction of what I was using. And guess what? 2 tablespoons ended up after I was like, okay, that's what I'm eating. That's fine. That's plenty. That's plenty of food. And I didn't feel deprived. I still got to have the same exact food. It created this vigilance, this awareness that I was over portioning myself with essentially healthy foods. So it not only will guide you to be successful, like our studies from Harvard and West Virginia University showed, but it also creates awareness. When we have awareness, we can make decisions, and we are more capable of navigating through areas that we might not be able to have understood or felt stuck in previously. Okay, let's talk about how to track calories without feeling like you're going to have a full-on stress attack. So again, this is a podcast for busy moms. I work full-time Monday through Friday. I commute. I've said that multiple times. If you're new to this, I work full-time in a hospital. I'm a medical staff coordinator. It's very busy. Doesn't matter. Everyone's mom life is busy, fill in the blank, whatever your life is like, okay? And one of those reasons that I was sharing about previously was like, hey, the women, they just are like, I'm not going to do it. Well, one of the reasons is because it seems stressful. They're like, I don't want to do yet another thing in my day. Like, how can I do anything else? Like, I get it. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and it was talking about how women go on the internet and it's like analysis paralysis. There's so much data out there. There's so much on social media. Do this, do that, sleep more, drink this, don't drink that, eat this, eat more of that, take this supplement. It's totally intense. And one of my goals is to just calm that noise. I'll do all the research for you. I said that in like one of my first episodes. That's kind of like my hobby, is sifting through all of that and learning and finding studies and picking out what works, trying some of the stuff with myself, trying stuff with my students. But listen, one of the things is that this can be a headache and it's stressful. You're like, I don't have time to do this. Yes, you do. So let's talk about starting simple. There is no need to do this perfectly. So tracking your calories doesn't need to be perfect at first. First, you want to just start logging what you eat without stressing over, one, what is it, or the exact numbers. You just need to get in the routine of popping open that app and being like, I had Honey Nut Cheerios and milk. And at this point of the process, I want you to estimate, even if it might be underestimated or overestimated, about how much you ate. It's fine. Just get into the routine of just tracking what it is and guessing, I don't want to say guessing, I like the word estimating, but estimating the portion size so you can get a feel for how much you're eating. Just get that initial review of your daily eating routine and building that habit of logging in as you create your meals, or, as you have your meals. I like to do it after I eat. There's a lot of ways that I do it. We'll talk about here in a second, but it's so easy nowadays. You don't have to use a paper and a pen. It's literally at your fingertips, you guys, on your phone. So like I said earlier, MyFitnessPal, Chronometer, there's another app called Lose It. I haven't used that one, but there's literally hundreds out there that I don't even know about. Maybe you use one that you love. Please share it in the YouTube comments, because I want to be, this is a community. What do you use that you like? I will continually say to use Chronometer, but maybe there's something better out there. And I really like free stuff, so I want this to be accessible for people. There are paid versions of everything that I share, but listen, you don't need the paid version, at least at first. If you feel like you want to dive into a more robust experience with those applications, by all means, pay for it, but you don't need it. So the ins and the outs of how you track your food is based on the method you use. So if you're using an app or writing it down in a traditional food journal, just like a regular notebook journal, the goal is ultimately the same. You're just building the routine at first, doing it daily. You can start out simple, but then once you fine tune and refine, you're going to start portion control. You're going to start measuring your food with a food scale and with measuring cups. But each day when you're tracking your food, you're going to enter the food item and all the ingredients, even if you don't know them, because you're going to do your best to include everything into the food journal or the app. So, for example, if you go out to eat, you can do your best to guess or estimate, the portion or, everything that might have been on the plate, right? We don't have as tight of control as we would of preparing our own food as we eat out, and it's okay. Do your best, put it in there. It's a guess, and it's better than not logging it at all. So if you're eating out, like for sushi, that might be something really hard. If you got a sushi roll, there's a lot of ingredients in it, and maybe you had a California roll and 2 pieces of hamachi tuna, then you would, search up those foods in the food app and do your best to estimate the portion sizes and get them entered. Because you won't know the exact amount of rice, the exact amount of nori, the crab in your sushi roll. You're just doing your best to make sure that you're logging it. This is better than not tracking it at all. Or one of the coolest benefits that creates less stress in tracking is using the apps. So it has a they have both of them, MyFitnessPal and Chronometer, have barcode scanners. So the barcode scanner is in the paid version in MyFitnessPal. It is free in the Chronometer app. So that's one reason why I switched over to them. But the app literally it opens up your camera, you flip over the packaging, let's talk about the peanut butter jar, like I was saying, and you scan the barcode and it populates that brand's nutritional data, the same data that you would see on the nutrition facts on that food packaging will populate automatically into your app. And from there, if you had less of a portion that it automatically populates or more, you have the ability to adjust it. But it does it for you. It is so fast, and Chronometer is really fast. It's like milliseconds and it's in there for you. You can even create entire recipes of things. So the tracking is really tight. So I make a chili about once a week for my family. I make it from scratch. It's super easy, but I know exactly what's in there. And so I've put that recipe into my app. And so I know I had a cup and a half of this chili, and it's not like I'm entering kidney beans, ground beef, over and over and over again. Nope, it's in there really quickly. It's done. So the other cool thing about using the app is that as you enter foods, as you start this process, you can mark them as favorites, and the app remembers what you've entered previously. So even if you don't mark them as favorites, there's usually a recent section that it's like you are frequently entering oat milk, you're frequently entering almond milk, you have cashews for snack. It'll be listed there in your recent. So it's really quick. You're like, boom, boom, boom. You don't even have to search it up. It's just there for you. So using the favorites options, using the recents options, that really makes it quick and simple and really easy. I like stuff that's easy. Stuff's easy. This is when we can maintain and we feel more comfortable actually taking action on it. So the apps are super robust, and I highly recommend using them over a traditional pen and paper journal. One other cool thing about the apps is you can copy and paste from previous days. So that is, I wanted to share that too. So that saves like a bunch of time, especially if you eat the same thing. For example, for breakfast every day, I go between 2 or 3 things only for breakfast every single day. And it's so simple that I just can copy breakfast from Tuesday to Wednesday. And it's like, boom, literally seconds. It's not even any time at all. When to track your food. So it's really up to you. I'll just share my preference, and you can just think about your own personal schedule and your lifestyle and what would work for you. But my preference is to track as the day goes. So I use an app on my phone, like I've said a million times, and I enter the food after I eat it. So I've already prepared my food up front. I've portioned it out, and from there I enter the food into my food log in my app. And that's just kind of like what I like to do. It kind of helps me. I'm like, okay, I ate my food. Now I'm tracking it. And I like to kind of pair those actions together. It feels good to me to do that. And it also helps me kind of reiterate the importance of tracking. I've had my food. How am I feeling? Sorry, I have allergies right now, you guys. How am I feeling after I eat that food? I can put some notes in at that time. And it's just what works for me. I had a student who logged her food all at once right before she went to bed. So she would be in bed logging her food. That was like her routine. I've had others who log their food the day before. So the night before, they create essentially their meal plan for the day in their food log. And from there, they just could reference their food plan for the day and then eat off of that. So there's a lot of options for you. It's just whatever works for you. Sometimes I'm doing a combination of all those things depending on what's going on, or maybe I got busy at work and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't log my breakfast or my lunch or my snack because I have all those things at work. It's fine, but whatever works for you is the answer to that. So when you track is not important. It's just the act of consistently tracking that is important. And I wanna reiterate that I know this is a lot. This is a podcast for busy moms, but logging, this is a podcast for busy moms. So I just want to give you some tips that might spark that might be good for you to help you save time and feel less stressed in this process. So logging your meals ahead of time, just even roughly, to make it daily tracking easier. So maybe you don't have your portions all tight, but you're like, okay, I'm having coffee with milk. in the morning, I'm having a protein shake, just a really rough outline, and then you can just pop in and change the serving sizes as you go. That's very helpful for people. It's similar to having like that guide throughout the day, combined with, kind of what I do is I eat it as I track as I go. You also make sure that you're using the tech of the app to your benefit. So save meals as favorites, put recipes in there so they're quick entry. And obviously, and when you get more precise and more comfortable with the food tracking process, you have to be using a digital food scale for accuracy. So then you're just like, it takes the guesswork out. So people are like, oh, that's an extra step. I don't want to do that. Well, you're spending time thinking about, well, maybe it was this much, maybe it's that much. You could have just measured it out, and that time would have been given back to you because you would know exactly how much you ate. So you've got to get a digital food scale. If you're curious about other elements to create a successful weight loss setup and environment in your kitchen, make sure to go back and listen to episode number 5, where I talk about must-have kitchen essentials for successful weight loss. And finally, if this is still feeling a bit overwhelming, listen, it's all about baby steps, simple. If tracking your meals seems just like something you cannot take on right now, we got to do something. Something's better than nothing. I don't want you stuck in this process because you are feeling fearful that you won't maintain it. So I encourage you to just track one meal a day to get started. And you're going to start to feel comfortable. You're like, okay, great, I can do this. You're just slowly building the habit and the routine. So maybe it's just your coffee that you're putting in. Maybe it's just your breakfast or your dinner. Just one meal a day. Maybe you just start by tracking your water. I'm talking about keeping it simple. If you are just starting out and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the area that I just really struggle with. And a lot of women do because they feel like they can't maintain it because they're too busy. Let's just start like ultra small. Start with tracking your water. Just make sure you're tracking your water every day or just one of the meals. Like I always recommend starting with tracking your snacks because they're tiny, they're quick. Most people have similar and same snacks every day. It's very simple and it's a fun way to kind of see how much fruit and vegetables you're eating because that's what I like to recommend for snacks because most of us aren't eating enough fruit and vegetables. So anyway, I digress, but just keep it simple. You can do this. So let's keep on keeping on. This is going to be a long episode, you guys. So I appreciate your patience. And as we continue on this journey of talking about how important tracking your progress for weight loss is, I'm going to move on by debunking some common myths about calorie tracking. And I want to do this because, again, so many people are hesitant for these particular reasons. These are myths. I believe they're myths, and I don't want them to be holding you back any longer. This is a great segue to talk about myth number 1, which is it's too time consuming. So the truth is, you guys, it takes less than 5 minutes a day once you get the hang of it. And I don't even think it takes me 5 minutes. It probably takes, maybe I should time it. It probably takes 2 to 3 minutes a day. I know that you have 2 to 3 minutes a day. So I'm going to give you, this is one of those times I'm going to get real spicy and I'm really sorry, but I got to give you a gut check, a reality check here. Here's why. Okay. The tech we're talking about, the technology that we're using to track our food is on your phone. Okay? It's on your phone. Adults, especially women, spend more than 3 hours a day scrolling social media. I want to throw up when I hear those stats. It makes me sick to my stomach. It's one of the reasons why I personally chose to get off social media. 3 hours a day is a waste of your life. It is not helping you. Sometimes you get information, you get recipes, you get inspired. I love that part of social media. I get it's entertainment, but I highly recommend you get off social media. It will change your life. I only go on there to, like, maybe someone sends me a link to something funny, but I personally, I don't, all my profiles are still alive, but I don't go on there. So it's really rare if I'm on there, and it's usually for like checking on my kid's school thing or something. Again, I'm going on a tangent, but there is no excuse for anyone at this point ever anymore to say that it takes too much time, especially with the robust applications that I've already talked about just moments ago to help you decrease the time spent in tracking your food. In fact, again, it's got to be less than 3 minutes total, especially because you'll start to eat the same things. It's so simple and easy. It is not time consuming. In fact, it takes like more time to brush your teeth than it does to track your food. So that excuse, it's a myth. It's no longer real. I could understand that back in the day when we're doing food logs, we're writing each thing line by line. That does seem time consuming. But we have, and this is 2025, you guys, at the time of this episode, we have technology. It takes just a couple minutes. And I know for certain that anyone listening to this has time to track their food. You're sitting here listening to this. You could be tracking your food while you're listening to a podcast. You could be tracking your food while you're in the car getting driven somewhere by your husband. I can name a bajillion places that you can track your food right before you get into bed, while you're sitting down watching Netflix. Listen, you have the time. You can put timers onto X and onto Instagram and onto Facebook, and it will kick you off. So, and you can bypass them, of course, but listen, you have the time. It's not time consuming, and use some of that social media time for your health. Give it up so you can track your food and finally get healthy and lose the weight. I'm officially busting this myth right now. And it's actually more of what I think is an excuse, especially because of the tech that we have. So no, it's not time consuming. Let's just move on from that and start tracking our food daily. Because I know, girl, you've got the time. So this one is a little heavy. So the myth number 2 that I hear a lot from people that are like, I don't want to track, it is that it encourages obsessive and unhealthy behavior. And I disagree. I can respect how this can come up, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But in my personal opinion, the truth is that tracking your food is simply a data tool. It's not a diet prison. But to respect the people that really feel strongly about how this can drive eating disorders and obsessive behavior, I totally respect that. And for anyone who struggles with eating disorders, and if that's you, please check with your healthcare provider always. Really, anyone who is listening, for anything I recommend or share or guide you to potentially try, you always want to be checking with your healthcare provider first. But food tracking has been said to potentially cause eating disorders and force people to undereat, and then they become obsessive about, portions, and, it's troublesome and it can cause, problems in your lifestyle. I don't think this really is that big of a driver to obsessive compulsive behavior. We all kind of have our own thing that can trigger us to kind of become more of perfectionist. And this is something that I struggle with. I get it. So I just wanted to bring that up. It's something that always comes up if I ask someone. They're like, oh, I don't want a food track because, it causes eating disorders. Well, it can cause eating disorders for multiple reasons. I'm not a clinician. I'm not going to say all the reasons, but one reason I would say is because people aren't properly educated or knowledgeable about how much to eat. And so all they think about is like, oh, well, this gal told me to eat less, so I'm eating less, and eating less to, this random person I'm making up is like they're eating 600 calories a day. Well, that is super unhealthy. And yes, I would consider that an eating disorder. But here's the thing. So when you're using a calorie budget, you should never, ever eat less than 1,200 calories a day. That's a serious hard stop parameter if I was working with you and we were working through this together. In fact, on my online courses that I ran for my weight loss groups, I would remind them. And I actually would monitor their food. They would post their food logs every day. And if I saw someone inching towards 1,200, or under that, they would get called out. And I told them that up front. I said, I will call you out and I will encourage you to 100% add some snacks, some proteins in there. You have to have more than 1,200 calories a day. That's a really low amount. And if you're eating less than that, it needs to be because of the guidance of a physician or a registered dietitian who's really monitoring you at close range to make sure that you're maintaining optimal nutrition for proper body function. This is not even a weight loss discussion at this point. If you're eating less, you can damage your body, damage your cells. Your immunity is going to drop. We want to make sure that we're appropriately fueling our body while also eating just a little bit less so we can use our stored energy that we already have, our fat, to fuel the body in that calorie deficit that we're using. But we don't want to do it to the detriment of our overall health. So to debunk this myth, I have to say, I don't know much about what it's like to have an eating disorder. So I really don't want to disrespect people in saying that this is a myth. But I would have to say that logging food could help. And it could it could really give you that awareness that, there's that word again, awareness, like, wow, I really am not eating enough. And that would be my personal goal for anyone that is struggling with an eating disorder. Again, I am not anyone to speak to, the mental capacity and the challenges and the emotional circumstances that come along with that. But I would hope that it would help someone make positive changes to come out of that space of having an eating disorder if they were tracking their food. So even if you think you may have an eating disorder, please tell someone and go get help. And this probably is not for you. I recommend working with a clinician. But that got serious for a second. But here's the thing. So working to bust this myth that tracking causes obsessive behavior. Well, it could. We all have something that triggers perfectionism, but instead of spinning calorie tracking in this negative light, I would say that tracking your calories doesn't encourage obsessive behavior, but rather keeps you informed. It keeps you curious. It keeps you vigilant about what you are eating and how much you're eating. It's not obsessive, it's informative. So that's how I want to bust that myth, all while keeping the respect to those who do struggle with some sort of unhealthy behaviors around eating. Okay, myth number 3, calories don't matter. So I shouldn't have to track if I'm eating clean. No, false. Does anyone watch The Office? Dwight would say false to your face. Okay, so first, I'm doing quotes here, air quotes. Eating clean is so vague and it means absolutely 1,000 different things. I'm not even sure if it means anything. So this is false. And to think that only eating clean, whatever that means, will lead you towards weight loss is not true. So I have an episode in the bank about clean eating. So I am excited to get that one out because it's kind of like a Venn diagram type of like thing that I want to show everyone I'm going to create. So I do have some definitions around clean eating that we could use for this particular discussion. So, maybe more raw fruit, fresh produce and, fruits, veggies, less processed food, less added sugars, maybe less sodas, maybe when we're cleaning up our current routines, in those types of ways. I don't want to go down the what is clean eating rabbit hole right now. But here's the thing. The truth is overeating healthy foods still leads to weight gain. So yeah, it does matter what you eat, even if you were quote unquote clean eating, because the numbers matter. So I can't stress this enough. I've said it probably in every single episode that talks about calorie deficit and calorie budgeting in this podcast to date. So no matter what diet you think you're going to work through, if you're on the fad diet train, you can go on Pinterest and put in the words clean eating and you're going to see a lot of things. There's great recipes in those pins, but it's an interesting concept. So anyway, so if it's Whole30, keto, paleo, carnivore, vegan, vegetarian, non-dairy, pescatarian, fill in the blank, overeating on any of those eating routines or your body's unique energy or caloric needs will result in weight gain or the inability to lose weight. So this is why I don't encourage fad eating routines unless it's something you really enjoy and you're seamlessly able to incorporate it into your life. So, and you're tracking your calories while you're doing it. You still have to track your calories. So I like to say, eat whatever you love, right? So of course, I do want to say, so as you work to track your food, you're going to find that you'll need to start to get creative in what you eat at times. So yes, you can eat anything you want, but let me give you this example. So say you guys have pizza night every night at the house, and your usual routine for pizza night is, say you have 3 slices of pizza, and maybe you have one of the breadsticks that you guys get for an appetizer. So that dinner would be, I'm guessing, about 800 to 1,000 calorie dinner, which is quite high. And it's probably more of your calorie budget that you want to spend on dinner. So yes, you can have pizza, you can have breadsticks, but this is where portion control comes in and being creative and flexible in your eating routine so you can maintain the foods you love. You're still eating the foods you love, but also being vigilant and aware that you're on a weight loss journey. You need to work to maintain certain portion controls and maintain a calorie budget to get you to that weight loss. So you could do a couple things here. You are still able to enjoy the pizza night, okay? So depending on how many calories you have left in your day or that you're budgeting for your dinner, maybe you have 1 less slice of pizza. Maybe you instead order a big salad and you just have 1 slice of pizza, or you have 2 slices of pizza and you have salad, or you don't have the breadsticks. There's all types of things that you can do here, but this is really based on portion control. And this is why you track your food so you can make these decisions. So an alternative, you could eat your usual portions, and the rest of the week you could eat really tight and diligently to make sure that you are still overall throughout the week in a calorie deficit for the week. So that does work. That's called a cheat day. I'm not really into cheat days. I just track my food and see how I'm going, but that is a strategy that a lot of people use. Anyway, I'm not going to go off on another tangent. I think you get it. It's important to eat a variety of foods, and it's important to eat the foods you love. So paying attention to what you eat is essential, and doing your best to make sure you're eating all those essential nutrients is important. And cleaning up your food from what it is now. Maybe you're a heavy soda drinker. Maybe you kind of cut back on that. That's a good concept, but that isn't what's going to drive your weight loss. The numbers matter, just like your bank account, just like I started out sharing and recapping with you guys in this episode. The numbers matter. So we're going to wrap up this episode by talking about the power of weekly check-ins and using your data to get 1% better. So the data that you've done, so you've been tracking your food, maybe you have been tracking some other elements like your sleep, your bowel movements, how much water you've been having, how your clothes fit. Those are all success tracking metrics, but you have to check in on them. If you don't check in on them, you don't have any information to know, like, hey, this routine is solid, let's keep going, or are there areas of opportunity to improve? So to be successful in your weight loss journey, you have to review your progress on regular intervals. So I like to do it once a week at the end of the week. I like to do Sunday evenings or just Sunday midday and kind of look back and see kind of how was the previous week, right? I'm going into the next week. I work full time, so Monday in my mind is the beginning of my week. So you can do this any day, but on a regular interval, ideally the same day of the week, because it's all about learning from your data. So grab a notebook here if you can, or make sure, like I said before, save this episode because you're going to want to reference back to this. There are a few things I want to help encourage you to reference or recall when you're doing your data analysis and your personal weekly check-in on your progress on your tracking. So the goal of a weekly check-in is to determine if your energy balance, your calorie budget is appropriate and working. How would you do this? So you would track your weight. So you want to track your weight. Some people track their weight once a week. Some people track it every day. I like to do every day, first thing in the morning. That's called after I go to the bathroom, that's called a dry weight. I find that to be the most accurate, because as you start moving around, start eating, your weight will fluctuate throughout the day. But whenever you can do it is fine. But that's one metric you can track, right? Like, did I lose weight this week? So try to do this on the same day at the same time every week. If you can't, don't worry about it. So did you lose weight? If yes, It's smart to do a repeat of the previous week. Just keep on keeping on. You are doing great. So getting into the weeds here for just a second. So I'm going to kind of go on another little tangent. If you lost like 5+ pounds in 1 week, that's a little bit too fast. So that might happen up front for 1 or 2 weeks as you get started, but it should taper off to be much less weight loss every week. So if you're losing weight really fast for several weeks, you're not eating enough. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But a nice sweet spot is, between 0.5 pound to 2 pounds per week. That's a nice healthy range. I personally like to stick to the 1 pound a week. That's like kind of like what works for me. And we don't want to lose weight too quickly. So that is also something you want to see is like, was I losing like a ton of weight? Also around your cycles, you might gain some weight and then lose a bunch. There's some, again, I'm in the weeds, but ultimately, we want to stick, you should see a pattern of between 0.5 pound to 2 pounds max weight loss a week. Okay, so if you didn't lose weight, instead of throwing in the towel and giving up yet again and getting frustrated, that's not our goal here. Our goal is to move forward and get you successful in your weight loss. I want you to get really honest with yourself. You have to get honest with yourself. And since you've been tracking, you actually have a ton of information to help you steer towards progress in the coming days and weeks. So ask yourself some of these questions and answer them. You got to answer them honestly. Okay. So how consistent were you the week before? Really? Like how really? You have to be honest. I've caught myself here like so frustrated. I was like, well, I went and had cocktails with my girlfriends, on Tuesday night, and there was cake on, Mary Jane's birthday at work, and I had I had 2 slices. Like, I wasn't, and then I didn't log it. Like there could be a lot of reasons. So how consistent were you on your meal plan? How consistent were you on your tracking, actually logging your food? So get honest. Is there a hole there? That's a piece of information that you can work to get better at. Was there a particular occurrence or scheduling thing that created a challenge? Did you feel overly hungry, or were you satisfied? Were weekends or certain meals harder for you? How did your schedule affect your ability to stay consistent with your eating routine? This is a huge one for busy moms. So think about that really hard. And sometimes we need to do some scheduling tweaks. Sometimes we need to ask for help so we can maintain our eating routine. And even just maybe having a friend text you and just have like an accountability buddy, that's really helpful. Some other questions to ask yourself: what foods made you feel really energized or not so great? How was your sleep? How was your water intake? How many times did you get outside? Sometimes we are missing something that is not food related. It's not exercise related. It's literally getting out into nature. And a lot of times when we're outside, we're moving our bodies. And so it's kind of like a 2-for-1 situation. And we're getting that vitamin D. It boosts our mood. Do yourself a favor. And if you're feeling really stuck in this process, overall, make sure you're getting outside frequently and ideally outside, not just on a walk in the city. If you live in a city, I don't live in a big city, but I live in a large suburban town in Northern California, but if, getting out to the ocean, or for us going out into the redwoods, into real nature, that is super helpful for any wellness or weight loss journey. Some of these may seem like silly questions like, hey, did you go outside? But I found that roadblocks in weight loss come not just from being able to stick to a meal plan or a calorie budget or your tracking routine, but there's always another factor. And a lot of them are strongly influenced by, outside forces like schedules, what other people are eating, your energy for the day, stressful events, your cycle. I already mentioned that just a minute ago, even your location. So are you traveling? Are you at the office? How does that affect your ability to stay consistent? So when you assess a few or all of these areas, taking a good look at what you actually did and didn't do how you felt or didn't feel is super important information for helping you make a small change the following week. So hopefully you are on track and you gave yourself a huge high five, 10 gold stars, let's go. But most of the time there's some areas for opportunity, and that's totally fine. And, if you found several places for improvement, just choose one. Just choose one. You have a lifetime to do this. We don't have to improve everything all at once. In fact, if we try to do that, you are probably not going to maintain this routine at all. So just choose one and work on that for the next week. I like to write that down in a personal journal. It's like, okay, this is the one thing I'm working on the following week. For me, it's always water. A lot of the time it's water intake, but whatever it is for you, you'll have the information in front of you. So if something keeps coming up, also like as you check in each week, that's a flag for you to maybe learn a little bit more about how to maintain and navigate that area. Or maybe that's a sign that you need to ask for support and reach out to, you can reach out to me, I'll help you. Or, maybe you have something you need to discuss with your physician. It's okay. And just remember, this is such a huge, and what I'm about to say is so important. And I want to drive this home. This whole process, this whole series that I've done, these last 4 episodes, this is a skill. This is a skill. Skills take time to learn. Skills take practice. Skills require you to fail and see why you failed and then pick up the pieces, put it back together in the right order. You didn't learn how to read in one sitting. It took years, and this could take a long time. It's not going to take years, but it's a skill. So I really want everyone to think about taking a learner's approach and being a student of your weight loss. I'm a student of learning how to eat healthy. Most of us didn't get this information, as we were growing up. We didn't learn how to make healthy food choices. We weren't taught in school these concepts of how to navigate the kitchen and how to, make sure I'm eating essential nutrients and how much is appropriate. We weren't taught that. There was always the food pyramid, but I have gripes with the food pyramid. I won't go down that right now. Hey, if that's where you need to start is with the food pyramid, I don't think it's the food pyramid anymore. I think they changed the shape. I think it's like called My Plate or something. That's the recommendations from the federal government, but I digress. Anyway, so it's a skill. It's going to take practice. You're going to need to give yourself time and grace and kindness to yourself as you get your balance in this routine. So some really quick tips here. So if you're feeling like you were too hungry and you're like, hey, one of my answers is yes, I was kind of feeling hungry. So there's something about you working through a little bit of hunger is necessary and appropriate. But if you were really starved, you're like, this is just not enough food. That's a sign that you're under eating. And I'm not saying that you should go out and get a large pizza and down that, but maybe increase your calories just a little bit, maybe like 500 calories, add in a high protein snack, a high fiber snack to your day and see how that works. And make sure you are drinking enough water. And if you did not lose weight, again, some simple hard checks, check your portion sizes, check how much alcohol you had that week. Ideally, just cut out alcohol. It'll save you a lot of headache and stress. So you don't need those calories, and just overall general health wise, you don't need it. How much sleep did you have? Just there's some funky things that could prevent you from losing weight. So the first thing I always do is, was I consistent with my calorie budget for the week? Maybe you want to just kind of tweak your portion sizes. Maybe you didn't measure appropriately or something. Maybe there is something that's keeping you bloated. Just choose one area and kind of focus on that and see if you need to tweak your calories. But listen, choose one thing. If you see an area for opportunity, choose one thing. If you have questions, put them in the YouTube comments. I love seeing them in the YouTube comments because it's a great place to have live, open conversation. Other people might have the same questions as you. This is a community. I want to build a community. Be a part of this community. You're here listening. I am so grateful for your time and your interest in your own health. That is so important. And listen, the goal isn't to be perfect. It's about making progress and getting 1% better each week. That's it. And if you're doing that, you're winning. And even if you're not losing weight for 1 week and you just kept forward, you're going to start to see that you will begin to lose weight as you make these tiny shifts and tweaks. And while you're doing that, you guys, you are building skills for a lifetime of healthy living, which you hadn't had before. So that right there, my friend, is a win. The next episode is going to be about strength training and how you can utilize fitness to optimize your weight loss. Get your shoes tied up, get your weights ready. I love strength training. I just started a new strength training routine. If you've been following me for a while, I did share that I was running. I was working towards shortening my 10K race time. I have a back injury and they told me not to run. So I've gone back to strength training, which I'm actually really happy about because that is my happy space. So anyway, thanks for sticking around. And if you could please share this episode with a friend, that would really help me out. Make sure that you're leaving me a 5-star review if you've been along for the ride on Apple. And if you're listening on YouTube or you haven't listened on YouTube, please pop over there and give my channel a follow. You can listen on there, and that's the place that you can interact with me the easiest. There's a bunch of links in the show notes that will take you to all my free resources. You can sign up to my email newsletter, all in the show notes and over on YouTube as well. So thank you so much for your time. Catch you next time. Hey there, me again. Quick disclaimer. Here on the Health Hobby Podcast, I share tips, insights, and ideas to help you on your weight loss and fitness journey. But I'm not your doctor or your personal health guru. Before diving into any nutrition or fitness plans I talk about, make sure to check in with your healthcare provider. They know your body best. Think of this podcast as your cheerleader and a place for healthy living idea inspiration, not your prescription pad. Stay safe, stay smart, and let's crush those goals together. Until next time.